What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronica, and you are watching a part of the Interview with the Life Coach podcast series. Today's special guest is Greg Curth. Greg is a high performance life coach. Greg, welcome in.
Thank you, Veronica, for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I look forward to having a great conversation with you and your audience, so to speak. So, yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming. We're so excited to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what got you interested in life coaching and then high performance coaching specifically?
Sure. So, let me give you a little background about myself. Incredibly, I'm going to be 65 years old in April coming up here, which I still have trouble believing, but I'm a prior retired Navy captain. I did that I was an aviator for about almost 32 years. And then in around 2013, I retired. And then I became a government contractor for a little while. And then I joined the government service working in DOD. So I've been doing that since 2014. Married to three daughters, 23, 22, and 18. So I've always kind of had a kind of growth learning mindset ever since way back when. I love to learn, and that's always brought me a lot of joy and a lot of interesting opportunities, having that kind of mindset. So, personal growth has always been a priority for me too. And along those lines, I stumbled across Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk. Read that. I liked the book. And I started following him on social media. He has a podcast that goes on. He also has a podcast on the Calm, which is another app I follow. So anyway, I started following him. And sure enough, the emails started coming in and, hey, do you want to be a life coach? And at first I'm like thinking, what the hell is that about? But honestly, the more I read into it, I got into it, I said, that could be like my third career when I retired from my government job. I was trying to help people and not only help other people, but help myself and my growth journey, help my family and their life growth journey and other people. So I thought this was a great niche that I'd like to explore. So I took his Jay Shetty coaching course, which was challenging and enlightening, and I learned tons from that. And so yeah, here I am today. And I like the high performance kind of niche too, because there's a few of the people I follow, like Brendan Bouchard, who's a super high performance coach, and I kind of like that angle, if you will, of trying to help people be the best version of themselves. And that's what I try to do on a continual basis too. That might be a long-winded answer to your opening question, but here I am today talking to you, which I met through the Jay Shetty Coaching School.
I think your answer was perfect. It allowed us to get to know you a little bit better. And I like how you mentioned helping people to become the best versions of themselves, right? Because I think sometimes when we think about high performance, there's this standard that might be set by society or other people, but to
Right.
encourage someone to look at, right, what is high performance for you? Your what is someone's living their best life look like for them?
Exactly. And it's all very personal, as you're talking about, Somebody's high performance life might be different, totally different from somebody else's, It might be maybe in the business, might be personal relationships. Kind of covers that whole gamut of life experiences. And everybody's has their own view of what that should look like or what success looks like.
I love that, making it specific to the person. So,
Absolutely.
so if we're looking at someone who's a high performer versus someone who's not, and then high performance coaching, where does that come in? And what's the difference between a high performer versus someone who is not necessarily a high performer?
Well, high performance coaching is I think it's kind of a very broad term again, and typically it applies to people who are maybe in business, entrepreneurs trying to start their own business, and obviously they might even have a regular day job, and they're trying to transition to become an entrepreneur, or they're already in business and they're in a senior leadership position or leadership position, and they want to kind of improve upon that. or their whole life, a whole life kind of approach where people are doing great in their day job, and but maybe things are lacking in other aspects of their life, either mentally or physically or relationships. So it's kind of, I think the high performance in my mind is really trying to catch all that and make the best version of in those individual aspects that you can possibly do, whether it's at work, at home, working with your being a parent, being a caregiver, whatever the case might be.
Right on. So then that's increasing the person's performance in all areas of their life or in different
Yeah,
areas of their life.
I think ultimately because it's all kind of related if you think about it, right? I mean, if you're physically, if you're not in good shape, it's going to impact the rest of your life. It's going to impact your emotional state about that. And they're all related too, of course. Because if you're tired all the time, you really can't be on your A game mentally, right? If you're fatigued all the time. So that part of it. And then the sense of trying to control, there's a lot going on in the world. I think you're busy life. So how do you kind of focus that so you're not overwhelmed all the time? And that kind of feeds back again to your mental and physical fitness aspect of it too. So all the different aspects of your life, from your mental health, your physical health, your relationships, are all related to each other. And the point being that if you can't, if mentally, let's say physically, if you're not healthy, or you're tired all the time, fatigued, that's going to impact your mental health. It's going to impact your relationships. It's going to impact your work performance. So all those aspects are really closely coupled, I would argue.
I agree, right? And then those areas of our lives, because they're all interconnected, tend to have a ripple effect or a snowball effect on each other.
Right, absolutely. The other thing I didn't bring up is the whole mindset aspect of life of coaching in general. I think mindset really kind of lays the groundwork for how you're going to perform. You always have that negativity bias, or you always have the um, disaster view of the world. That's really going to impact how you deal with the world and your performance. I think meditation is a key part of awareness for all people, including people who want to be high performers in different aspects of their life.
I love that because then you also mentioned too, then through the meditation, you can improve your people can improve their mindset and then focus on self-awareness.
Absolutely. If you think about it, and it's kind of got me the whole coaching side of life too, is that I'm fascinated by the human brain, by the human mind. And it's just incredible to learn more about it, explore it. I mean, if I could do my whole career life over again, I probably would have gone into being a neurosurgeon or being the study of the brain from that perspective, because it's amazing. I mean, it's an incredible, humans are incredible. And how some excel and some do great work, and and others don't do so well. Why is that? What's the variable there? You know, so
That's interesting too, because it all leads back to the mind and your mindset and motivation.
yeah, absolutely. Using your kids and trying to help them out. And unfortunately, kids don't come with an instruction manual. Being a parent,
It's true. I know you mentioned high performance in all areas of life. What would that look like if someone comes to you and they say, Greg, I'm trying to improve my personal life, my relationships with other people? Where would you start?
well, I think I would start with a basic assessment of what that means to them, right? From a perspective like, okay, how would you rate your mental health from like 1 to 10? How would you rate your physical health from 1 to 10? And kind of work around that. How would you rate your finances 1 through 10? How do you rate your family relationships? We might drill down a little bit more from that, from like, is it they're just concerned about their relationship with just their significant other or partner? Or is it about their whole family? And kind of get a feel for where they think they're at, and then start looking at some fundamental goals that they want to improve upon, and then figure out, okay, so what's keeping you from doing that today? What are the obstacles along those lines? And then try to map out a way to get there. And that's not easy to do. I think relationships are probably the most trickiest aspects of the human condition of trying to figure that out, right? Because you have only control what you can bring to it. You can't control the other person, and that's the challenge. And everybody's different too. So I think that's pretty interesting. So I would start there, basically. from that perspective.
That makes sense, like encouraging the person to focus on what they can control in terms of
Yeah,
improving.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, another exercise I like to do is when you draw a big circle and then you draw a little circle. And in the big circle, you put everything that's out of your control, outside of your control. And then the small circle, you put what's inside, what can you control? It kind of gives you that mindset. Like there's a lot of things I can't control. I can't do anything about. I can't do anything about the weather. I can't do anything about if my flight gets canceled. I can't do anything about if my car breaks down or, you know, you can go on and on and on, right? Can't do anything about really politics, etc. So what can I control? And I think starting there is also very important too. You control your attitude, right? You control what time you get up, what time you go to bed in the morning, or excuse me, what time you go to bed at night, and what time you get up in the morning. You know, you can control your again your mindset. You have a lot more influence over that than you think. You can control over your intentions. You know, how many people actually stop and think intentionally about what they're going to do next? I would submit a lot of people don't. They just kind of like, okay, I have to go shopping, or I have to go talk to my wife, or I have to go talk to my boss, or whatever. But they never stop and go, well, what am I going to do about that? When I talk to my boss, what's my point of doing that? What am I really trying to do? What's my intent in talking to them? And I think that pause is key. So, so I go back to your question. Yes, I think from coaching somebody in a relationship aspect, that's where I would start.
Having them take a pause and look at some of the other areas of their life that might be pulling away from them being their best self in that area they're looking for growth.
Absolutely. That's a great summary. You did that better than I did. So, yes,
No,
absolutely.
I loved your summary and your examples too, because and that's a different approach than I would have taken myself, just taking the time to have the person look at where they are now and then where they want to be. And we have, right, 24 hours in a day, and you have all of these different categories on the wheel of life. So ultimately, if there's a deficit somewhere, there might be, or there's an area where we aren't putting enough focus. It's because we might be putting too much focus on another area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to really bring your A game to whether the relationships or to work. You really have to have the fundamentals there, um, from a physical, mental aspect of it. And you know, a lot of times with relationships, it's some what's relationships really come down to is trite as this sounds, but it comes down to communication. And the communication not only verbalizing what's on your mind, but listening, active listening to your partner or the other person involved. And that's tough for some people, for a lot of people, I think.
Why do you think it's challenging?
Why do I think it's tough? I think a lot of times, I think that has a lot to do with people's, honestly, their self-esteem. Because in a conversation, maybe it's kind of difficult, and they're already thinking of how to respond to whatever that person might be talking about, or the point they want to get across. So I always take the approach of, you know, seek to understand, and then be understood. Is what my personal philosophy is, what I try to imbue in other people. So if you're understanding the person first, then you have the opportunity to kind of think about that and then respond appropriately by trying to just get your point across the whole time.
That's valid too, because how can we help someone else understand them if we're not taking a look at their point of view, if we don't know where they're coming from?
Yeah, and people, you know, everybody has their own struggles, their own crosses to bear. You don't know what's going on in their life, you know. So you really have to kind of dig a little deeper, I think, and really actively try to understand where they're coming from before responding. And that's, I think, very challenging for some people because they just want to get it out there, you know, get their view out there.
Without listening to the other person. You mentioned something else around active listening that I found really interesting, and it was around self-esteem.
Yeah,
And
I think, you know, the more I talk to people or work with people, sometimes I think people who have low self-esteem feel like they're never heard and they really want to make sure they get heard over everything else that's going on in the conversation. It's just an observation. I think that there's a relation. I got to dig deeper on that, but I think there's a correlation between that. because you're really confident, have high self-esteem, you're willing to just be quiet and listen. And I think that kind of goes back to that point. I think true high performers in various aspects of life, they do a lot more listening than talking. Because in listening, that's when you learn what's really going on around you, what's going on with other people, what's going on with your business, what's going on with your wife or his kids, by listening. And that goes back to confidence and the self-esteem piece of it.
Makes sense. If we're listening, it's easier for us to learn and grow. And if you're confident, it's easier for you to absorb information because you're not consistently trying to impress the other person. It would make, I love that you brought that up because I'd never thought about that before as the active listening's correlation to self-confidence.
Yeah, I think it's definitely related. You talk to people who are in leadership positions, a lot of them, they listen a lot and ask a lot of questions. They're not out there to just tell you their point of view. Now, there's a time for, obviously explain your position and your vision or whatever the case might be, or where you want to take the relationship or the company or your job or whatever the case might be. But it goes back to my mantra of seek first to understand and then be understood.
I like that.
And I didn't make that up, by the way. I give credit to Steve Covey, who wrote a book years ago about the 7 habits of highly effective people. So that's where I came from.
Oh, that's a good book.
It's a great book. One of my favorites.
If someone were watching this podcast and they were thinking to themselves, I I'm doing okay in different areas of my life, but I feel like I'm a little bit stuck and I would like to see things get better. I would like to improve my performance in my personal life or in my work life. I just don't seem to be getting there, right, to the ideal version of myself in those relationships. How would they contact you for life coaching?
They can currently hit me up on Instagram. They can DM me there, or they can, yeah, email me too at curthgp@mac.com. I'm on Facebook also, for that matter. So,
Facebook as well. Awesome. And
but yeah, anybody just wants to talk about high performance coaching, I'd be more than glad to just have a discovery call and just chat about it with them.
it's something that I just know from experience and my sessions with you and the challenges that you've given me to work on. You know what you're doing, and it's always been a pleasure.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate our sessions also. Just from an accountability, sharing the stories of the coaching journey, I think are great. Absolutely, and it's been very value added to me too.
Then I was so glad to get to know a little bit more about you and your time spent in the service, mindset, and meditation. Do you incorporate meditation in your life coaching?
I recommend it, absolutely. And a lot of people, I'd say 50% of people are attuned to meditation, about 50% are not, which is interesting. I think a lot of people I talk to in the coaching business are definitely attuned to meditation and its role. Uh, I've been a big fan. I think I mentioned to you before, the Calm app that kind of got me started, and that's where Jay is now. I guess he's one of the major contributors there too. That's worth checking out. He does like this 5-day challenge, and they're like 3 minute, to just like 3 minute videos. He goes through his whole series, and which, in fact, I looked at again this morning, just as a refresher.
I love that.
But yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think meditation is a key part of it. I mean, just think if everybody meditated for 10 minutes a day, the world would be a better place. I swear it would be.
I agree with you. There are things that come up in the quiet, right? That you get so distracted during the day that we might never think about and just have a moment with ourselves.
Yeah, and even during the middle of the day, after, if you're a crazy meeting, you're about to go in the meeting, just to take a few deep breaths and just release all that tension and go in there with a clear mind. It makes all the difference in the world.
When you meditate, what does that look like for you?
So it depends, naturally. Sometimes I do the guided meditations. Sometimes I just do them by myself. And so typically it's just me sitting on the couch, in the morning. I actually have this also, especially in the wintertime here. I have this sun lamp I turn on. It gives this artificial sun. Um, that's part of my early morning routine when it's still dark outside. And then I'll kind of either listen to the daily Calm or the Calm app or just on my own for about 10 minutes. Usually I do like two sessions, 10 minutes each. Most of it's focused and there are different types of meditation, right? You can just focus on your breathing. There's like a whole body. It's a host of different types of meditations you can do. If you haven't seen the Calm app, I would check it out. And there's other stuff on YouTube for free too you can do. But just got bought into the lifetime membership, which was probably the smartest thing I've done in a long time because I'm sure the price keeps going up every year or so.
For the app. I'll look forward to
Right.
checking that out. That's something I've spoken with a lot of other coaches who are trying to figure out a way to incorporate meditation into their sessions. And I think you brought up a valid point that there are so many different ways to meditate.
Absolutely. And even just, even if you start a coaching session with, hey, let's just like clear our minds out, let's just take a few deep breaths. That's a meditation right there.
Breath work, light therapy. I know I have a couple of clients who have seasonal affective disorder, and they have said that light therapy works wonders for that. I have another coach who does NLP and tapping therapy.
Mm, I've seen that too. In fact, I think I have an app for that I haven't played with, but my, my phone has a million apps on it. It's a hot mess, but I like to collect them and check them out.
Helping the client find what type of meditation works for them.
Right. And I think that's important. Again, it's kind of individual, and I'm not there. And actually, even the this morning, Jay Shetty's meditation is only 7 minutes. I mean, it's really short. And it's more from a wisdom perspective with meditation thrown in at the end a little bit. But he talked about meditation, about how kind of debunking the myth of meditation where you have to be, sitting on a mat, cross-legged, that you can do it. Actually, you can do meditation anywhere, and it's different for different people. I thought that was great. I will even send that. I think it's on my phone. I can send that to you
Thank you. That will be
for
perfect.
fun
And then
if
I'll
you.
add the information on the call mat and the link below too, like under your contact information. Take a
That'd be
look.
fabulous.
I did have one other question too, or one final question for you. You were mentioning how some people don't like to meditate, right? Why do you think that is?
Well, the typical novice answer is, my mind's too busy. I'm always thinking about something. And that's exactly the reason you should meditate, right? And of course it's not gonna happen overnight. It takes a lot, right, frankly, I would argue months, sometimes years to get to the point where you can really get in the flow and just shut off your mind or the monkey mind from chattering nonstop. It's not easy to do, but I think a lot of people just get so turned off. They try it once or twice, like, well, that's not working. It's not for me. But that's exactly the point. It is for you. You just have to work at it. And you're gonna have days where you sit and it's be great, and you have like this total insight to how you're feeling. Other days it's just a collusion of millions of thoughts, and that's okay. That's okay too. I think the real takeaway from meditation for me is to have this equanimity where you just don't react to like all the craziness in the world. You have much more patience, more equanimity. Things really don't bother you. It's traffic, crazy things that happen in life, that kind of thing. So I think the real payoff is not so much meditation; it's what you take off, quote unquote, the mat and bring into the rest of your life. It's not like a walking advertisement for Calm. I got it, but it's I believe it.
You, Brad. That's so cool, right? Like
Absolutely.
you said, it's something that's achievable for everyone, and the ability to calm that. I know we got the term the monkey mind from the Jay Shetty course, but I like that you added to that quieting the chatter.
Your brain's always working, right? I mean, your brain's always coming up with questions and always kind of do that negativity bias, like what's going to happen next? What should I be working on? What am I doing? What about this, that? And there are a number of different images you can use, whether, it's the clouds in the sky or your thoughts, or, you know, a river of thoughts going away. You're just sitting on the shore watching them and, disengaging from them. And it's not that you want to ignore them, you acknowledge them, but just let them go. They'll come back. I promise. They'll come back to you.
And
So
that's what you do with your coaching. You help people to quiet the clutter and focus so that they can
yeah,
be high performers.
exactly. And, I think the real key for high performers in general, or anybody successful, is the ability to focus. And that's a lot tougher nowadays because of this thing, right? And I catch myself all the time. It's so easy to start scrolling, to look at your email, look at Facebook, look at Instagram. I mean, that is like, I laugh. I used to say it's like military grade engineering to capture your attention and keep you on that. A lot of people behind Instagram, a lot of people behind Facebook, a lot of people behind those posts, right? Stuff that you put on Facebook, right? Or what Instagram, whatever. It's designed to catch people's attention. So you really have to get control of that focus capability. And it's amazing what you can do when you really do focus, when you have control over that. Instead of waking up or looking at the clock and realize you just, wasted an hour and a half of just doom scrolling.
I like that doom scrolling because you can't get the
You
time
know,
back. We don't.
no, you can never get the time back. That's our most precious commodity. You know, I tell some people we all have expiration dates on our body someplace. We don't know when that's going to be. So time is your most precious commodity. So make the most of it by learning how to focus.
Thank you, Greg.
Oh, it's been fun.
It,
Thank you for the opportunity.
it was my pleasure. It's always a pleasure meeting with you, and hopefully we can have you back on again soon. I will leave Greg's contact information below so you guys can reach out to him for high performance coaching. And thank you guys for watching.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.